Worried about work, family, or other relationships? I'm Chuck Wolf, a pioneer in emotional intelligence. When live on the Emotion Roadmap, I use a proven 4-question framework to turn emotional roadblocks into clear next steps on air in real time. Join us Tuesdays at 5 p.m., twice a month on YouTube. Subscribe, go to YouTube, type in @CJWOLFE5, and ask to be notified when I'm live so you don't miss a show. Call in when you see the number on screen. In 1990, the psychologists who sparked the science of emotions asked me to help translate their research into everyday tools. I built the Emotion Roadmap, a simple 4-question model that helps anyone improve how they manage their feelings and influence others ethically and effectively. On the Emotion Roadmap, take the wheel and control how you feel. We turn worry into clarity and stress into strategy. Each 45-minute episode blends practical psychology, common sense tools, guest experts, and live caller coaching. Smart, capable people often get stuck when emotions run high, and this show helps you get unstuck fast. When you call, you help everyone else who listens. As I help you, I explain how the Emotion Roadmap works so that everyone listening is learning to use the process. To learn more about me, go to www.emotionroadmap.com. I have been very lucky in life and have worked with and learned from some of the greatest thinkers in the world at Harvard and Yale, other places, and I want to bring what I have learned to hopefully make a meaningful, positive difference in your lives. Enjoy and tell your friends and your family. Hello, this is Chuck Wolf. You're watching the Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. And today's show, I'm going to be live streaming and I want to be talking to people if you have an interest in joining me on several different topics. One is about emotional intelligence in grandparents and grandchildren. How do we strengthen the bonds between ourselves and our grandkids? As a grandparent, I can tell you some personal experiences. I'd love to hear yours as well. What are some things that you've really enjoyed about being a grandparent? What are some of the best times you've had with your grandchildren where they've really appreciated the opportunity to be with you, to learn from you, to play a game with you, to just enjoy some time where they're listened to and cared about? No judgments. Well, maybe some judgments, but just a really pleasant, meaningful experience. And if you've had some conflicts with your grandkids and you're able to turn it around, what were some of the ways you did that? As you think about emotions and emotional intelligence, I want to talk to you about relationships and families, like with grandparents and grandchildren. I want to talk about what it's like to be a team member and how, even though you're not maybe the lead or the boss, you can still influence how people feel around you, including how your leader feels. What are some ways that you might be able to impact the culture in a very positive way? The emotional climate, the culture, the organizational culture, that where you take some responsibility yourself for trying to turn around and change and make things happen in a way that really benefit the entire team. How can you be responsible for doing that and not just depend on somebody who's in charge in terms of a hierarchy and a structure where they're the leader of the people in the unit, but maybe they're not the best person for making the team feel like a team. Maybe you have that gift, or at least you have some skills in that area, and you can be helpful. And the last thing I want to talk about today is a bit about cyberbullying. Recently, I read some disturbing things. There's been lots of disturbing things for a long time now about cyberbullying and what's happening in that world. In fact, one of my friends, Mark Brackett, who is the director for the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale University, actually worked with Facebook for a period of time, trying to use the skill set and the tools he has available to him at Yale through a program called Ruler, which is his uncle's program originally, that actually teaches people. Ruler stands for recognize, understand, label, and express and reframe how you deal with emotions. So it's a neat concept, and it's in a lot of public schools all over the place. I actually introduced Mark to the assistant superintendent of schools in Simsbury one day, but unfortunately, that didn't get closed in a way where Simsbury's adopted the program. But lots of school boards in Connecticut have adopted Ruler. And that's one way where you learn about recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and kind of reframing the way you deal with emotions. And Ruler is kind of a nice acronym because it's about schools and math and and hard science, as well as the soft science you might consider of emotional intelligence. One of the things that's really interesting, I just submitted a concept article for Harvard Business Review. It's very hard to get published in Harvard Business Review. If you know the magazine, it's a really wonderful magazine for really innovative ideas, and it's really targeting very senior people, but also middle and upcoming managers and people of high potential who want to see what's happening on the cutting edge in organizations all over the world. A lot of the articles for Harvard Business Review, I'm told, are commissioned. Actually, people are asked to write for them, as opposed to just an author might want to submit an article. But I had an idea. They have a management ideas or leadership ideas. That they have a page where they put up different ideas, and I have a concept that I'll tell you a little bit about and what I hope to publish there. It's about complementing this idea of shared values with shared feelings. And for those of you in organizations, you probably have heard the idea of having a set of shared values in an organization that align with the values that the organization members have as a way to inspire performance. And in theory, it works very well, and it has for many years been a very helpful way for organizations to orient themselves by really thinking about and focusing on what do we really value here? And who are the people that we want to recruit? What types of people? What do we want people to care about so that when they come into our organization, they support and align with the values that we think are important for our organization to be in existence? Well, it's a great idea, and I think it's had a lot of valuable contributions over the years, but I think it needs to be augmented, complemented by a focus on shared feelings. So, for instance, if your organization really values respect, that's great, isn't it? I mean, don't most people want to feel respected? Don't most people, in the best of times, aren't they all respectful? Aren't you all respectful to others, particularly when things are going well? Well, how you feel means, do you feel respected in your organization? That's a little different than saying respect is one of our values. I love the idea that respect is a value, and I want to complement that idea with, do you actually feel respected? And I think there's a powerful component that gets added when you look at the feeling side of the word respect and not just consider it as a value. And how about when you're a representative of this organization, since respect's a value of this organization, and when you signed on, you knew that, and you think of yourself as respectful, are you actually respectful to your vendors, to your customers, to other teammates, people in other parts of the company? Do you generally think of yourself as respectful? Are there times when you may not be? So one of the things that I want Harvard to write about and to publish my article is this idea that if we focus on shared feelings, I think we raise the bar a bit about how important it is to think about our values and our feelings in conjunction with one another. Because when we focus on feelings, we're not only thinking about what's important to value here, we're thinking about the people that are here, and we're valuing them by paying attention to how they're feeling today and how what we might say or do is going to make them feel going forward tomorrow. Particularly as leaders, don't you want to care about that? How about as grandparents, as team members? Or those of you that use mediums, social media, to say nasty things to other people? Or you've been the target of other people saying nasty things to you? Well, let's talk a little bit about grandparents. If those of you who are listening today, and you happen to be listening live as opposed to seeing this at a later time, and you have a nice story to tell about being a grandparent, I'd appreciate if you'd call in and share it. You see the number on the screen if you're watching me on YouTube. And if you happen to be listening and you want to call, I will give you the number. And then after you type in the number on your cell phone or whatever phone you're using to call, and you finish with the dialing instructions, then it asks for a PIN. So I'll give you that too. So here you go. The number is 224-706-0045. I'll do it one more time. 224-706-0045. And then the PIN following that is 645-209-040 and the pound sign. And if you've got a story, any story about being a grandparent and something you've enjoyed and kind of a fun story to share, that'll make the 45 minutes I'm on the air today a little more enjoyable for everybody, including me, if you've got a story you want to share. I'll share one of my own. So one of my grandchildren is in a competitive fencing club. He's learned how to fence, and he's really good at it. And we don't get to see him fence that often because he's in a couple states away, and it's a pretty long ride to get to him, but it's doable. It's just kind of hard to get there. But he was recently in a fencing tournament in New Haven, where we went to see him. I say we, my wife and I and our daughter and his father, we went down and we watched him. His sister came too. And he was great. It was so much fun to see him compete. And he had some wonderful moments. He's not ranked yet, but he did make All-State where he is in his high school. And he was considered the best fencer on his high school fencing team, which, again, all really good stuff. And then he had a moment where he got to a place against a ranked person. He was fencing. And he didn't do as well as he would have liked, but he did well, though. He actually had a chance to win, but in the last moment, the ranked fencer managed to win the match. And then there was a break, and we began talking about it. He came over to where we were sitting, and we were talking. And I was talking to him about, it's really interesting, isn't it? When you have a chance to engage in some kind of competitive sport of some kind, and you have a chance to win, but you also have a chance to lose, and sometimes you play great, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you beat somebody, and sometimes somebody beats you. And I guess one of the things I thought, because of what I do for a living, and I think this way, is I started to talk to him about, so what happens when you mess up? When you make a mistake, or even if we don't make a mistake, you just realize somebody's better and they're winning the match. What goes on for you? And then I started to talk to him about this idea of an emotion roadmap, right? For those of you who have listened to the show, I talk about the emotion roadmap. Well, I do it with my grandkids too. And I said, what's really important is what you say to yourself when some mistake happens. Because we all fall down in life. Life isn't perfect. There's a lot of obstacles in life, and sometimes we trip over them. Sometimes we leap over them, like Superman or Superwoman. We fly over obstacles at times, and that's great when that happens. But that's not always the case, is it? Sometimes we fall. And one of the things that is really helpful to think about it is not that we fell, but how did we act when we got back up? And I said, that's really what you want to think about. I think when you compete in something like this, there may always be somebody that might be able to beat you. And there'll be lots of people, if you're good, that you'll beat too. But one of the things you want to keep in front of you is the idea that it isn't so much that you're competing with another person, as much as it might be that you're getting better every time. That you keep growing and learning, and you're strengthening your capabilities. And you're learning from any mistakes that you might make, as opposed to dwelling on, oh, darn, I should have done better. No, that's not good enough. Oh, I made a mistake. What mistake did I make? And there's just some way to learn from making this mistake so I don't make that mistake again. Is there some way to do it a little differently, to anticipate this? There's lots of strategies for sports, and I'm not the only one talking about this in the field of psychology for sport or mental health, but a lot of things have to do with how do you feel and how do you want to feel. I was asked on LinkedIn just today, someone said, I read your profile, I see the work that you're doing, I'm incredibly impressed with all that you do around this field. If you could say, what's the one thing you would say is most important about emotional intelligence? It's pretty easy for me to answer that these days. I think it's this. Pay attention to how you're feeling and how those around you are feeling. And think about how are you feeling, and is the feeling that you have and others have, are the feelings helpful or are they actually obstacles? Perhaps obstacles that are in your way to accomplishing particular outcomes that you want to get done. So the thing I think is most important is to ask yourself to start with, how are you feeling? To be self-aware of your feelings and to be aware of how others are feeling. And then to ask, are the feelings helpful? And when they're not, what feelings would be more helpful, maybe even ideal to feel instead for you and anyone else that might be key? And as you're dealing with that, as you're dealing with your feelings and the feelings of others that might be key to what you're trying to get done, and you decide, hey, I know what I'm feeling isn't helpful, and I'm pretty sure I know what would be really helpful, how do you get there? That's the idea of a roadmap. A good friend of mine that we're going to go see in the week ahead is someone named Bruce Alster. And Bruce was very active with me years ago when Bruce and actually Mark Brackett, the director for the Center of Emotional Intelligence at Yale, Mark and Bruce and I all worked together at Valley Stream Schools in Long Island, New York. That's where Mark first got started with using Ruler. And we were all working together. And one of the things that Bruce had helped me with was when I was looking at helping the pioneers in emotional intelligence come up with a way to operationalize what we were learning about the science to make it useful to people. And I was coming up with these questions and these ways of thinking about emotions. And I said, I'm trying to think about what can I call it when you want to change the emotions you have to the emotions that would be really more ideal and better suited to what you're trying to get done. And Bruce came up with the idea, well, if you're trying to get from one place to another, well, to me it's obvious, he said, Chuck, call it a roadmap. Call it an emotion roadmap. So all credit to Bruce Alster for coming up with the idea of an emotion roadmap. Some more to come about that too. I'll talk more about the idea of a roadmap and how interesting that is for lots of reasons. But the concept in terms of what's the most important thing to know is how are you feeling, self-awareness, and anyone else that's important to you is feeling, grandparent, grandkids, team members, teams, someone being bullied on the internet through social media. How is the person being bullied feeling? How's the person doing the bullying feeling? What causes somebody to become a bully? That's also really interesting to think about too. But anyway, the key learning for anybody that's interested in emotional intelligence is to focus on how you're feeling. Ask yourself, are the feelings helpful? And when they're not, what would be better to feel? And how do I get there? That is the key to the science of emotional intelligence. What is it you're feeling? What would be ideal to feel? And how do you get there? What are you able and willing to do to get there? Life is better when people focus on the feelings of themselves and how it's impacting their thoughts, their thinking, and their behavior. And it also is really, really helpful to think about how are the feelings of others impacting how they are feeling, how they are thinking, and how they are behaving. And what can you and others and anyone do about any of that? There's much that you can do. In the past, I think most people kind of felt like sometimes it's like the hand you're dealt is what you have to play. The cards you're dealt in poker are the cards you have to play. Well, the emotions you dealt, just as I was telling my grandson, when you feel like you made a mistake, can you let it go and just go on to the next one, like a basketball player who takes a shot and misses, but who is a shooter, who is on that team because he or she is a shooter and really good shooter with a high percentage of makes versus misses, and they just let go of the misses and keep taking shots because that's what they're there to do. And they have confidence that even though the last one missed, the next one's going in. And if not that one, the next one. And if not that one, the next one. So there's a way of compartmentalizing the way you feel. There's also the narrative, the things you might say to yourself about how you're feeling. And finally, what is it about the feelings themselves? Can they change? If you go into a match knowing that you're playing really, really talented people, you're up against them in a tennis match, a fencing match, a ping pong match, whatever individual sport you might be in, and you know you're going up against a really tough group of people, and you don't necessarily expect to win, but you expect to perform well. So the measurement isn't against them, it's against yourself. Can you be better? Can you continue to grow? Can you see that growth? Can you feel good about that growth, even though you might not win the match? So anyway, we had this conversation, and then he went on, and he had a match that he didn't do very well in, and he was upset about it, but he was okay. And then, interestingly enough, he had another match. We didn't see this one, but it was a few days later, and he was down, and he was losing pretty badly in a match that wasn't all ranked people. It was people that were at his level or maybe a little bit better. And he's really good, but there are people that are better. And he was down and out for the count, it looked like, and he came back strongly in several different matches, and he ended up winning the tournament. And again, as a grandparent, how do you build bonds? How do you strengthen bonds? And I wrote to him, and I said, I understand from your mom that you won the match, and I'm very proud of you that you won. But I'm even more proud of you in the way that you won. She explained to me that you were down. You were down a lot. And that because you were down, she thought maybe you weren't going to win this one. But you dug deep, and you found a way to turn that around. You turned the feelings around. You turned your energy around. You became confident and successful as a result. And I'm really proud of that. That's the way I think about, trying to build bonds. But it isn't just about the things you say. It's also just being with your children, going out with them. One of my happiest moments was with another grandchild I have, who, when I came over the house not too long ago, he said, "Did you bring the ball and the bat? Can we go outside and play some baseball?" And so for me, baseball with my grandsons and my granddaughters, if they want to play some kind of sport with me and they were excited to see me because I've done that with them before, that's another great feeling and another great way to build bonds. Do something the kids like that you enjoy doing too, so that it's special when you get together and you visit with them. So again, if you've got some stories of your own about things that you might have done or things that you might enjoy, give me a call. 224-706-0045. And then after you dial the number, 645-209-040 and the pound sign. That's the PIN. So one more time, 224-706-0045, 645 for the PIN, 209-040 and the pound sign. So you got something that you want to share? Again, it's more fun if you call in. So I hope that somebody has a story or something that they'd like to share. That'd be fun to listen to and talk with you about. And again, you're listening to Chuck Wolf. It's the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. So one of the other things about take the wheel and control how you feel, I did add the tagline, but Bruce came up with the name. And one of the things that I've been doing lately is I was engaged with this online course that teaches people about this emotion roadmap. And we did a pilot with a group of people. And one of the people that went through it said, I like the idea of a roadmap. And I wonder if you might use some signage of some kind as you read the book. The book's interesting and the content's great, but a few graphics might be really useful. So my partner in Brazil uses Canva, I guess. It's a particular software program. And he created brilliant, fun imagery. So much fun. The book is now, it's almost a graphic novel. He's got so many images about, whoa, stop, slow down, obstacle ahead, dangerous curve coming up, and all these things about where we're trying to teach people about emotions. And it's kind of fun to read. Makes the book fun and the learning fun, I think, in a way that it was all the content was still there, but it was done in a way now that's more engaging, I think, and more fun. So very thankful to Irvine Nugent, who is the person who had suggested that we do more graphics and make the book a little bit more entertaining to go through, and my friend Marcelo, who did a brilliant job, did a great job illustrating it. So that was a little bit about the idea of a roadmap, because when you think about a roadmap, you think of your life is full of, dangerous curves, isn't it? Roadblocks, obstacles ahead, detours that you've got to take. You thought you were going down this career path, but nope, guess not. I guess you got to go this way instead. That's kind of like driving down the road, isn't it, a little bit? To me, it is anyway. So the other topic I wanted to talk a bit about was teams and team members. A lot of times we're dependent on our leader, boss, manager, supervisor, project lead, team lead, to be the person or people in charge of how we feel during the course of the day, whether outcomes are achieved or not, directions for making choices, decisions that are somewhat ambiguous to many of us. The team lead or supervisor leader has to make the call. And the way they do those things, and the way that they hold people accountable, and the way that they delegate information and services and ideas and chores, all that has an impact on what's called emotional climate or organizational culture. But can a team member impact that in any significant way? What do you think? Do you think a team member could ever have an influence on how a group feels? Is it possible that team members, not just team leaders, influence how a group feels? My guess is you already know the answer to that. And the answer is, of course you can. Maybe not to the same degree. But certainly, I'm guessing that you've been on teams where there's been somebody that's just so funny, so warm, so engaging, that it's just fun to be around them. Flip side, there's Debbie Downer used to be a cartoon character that was somebody who was always coming and saying, yeah, but that won't work because, and it would bring everybody in the room down. There's people that sort of have that negativity that they carry around with them, like a little cloud over their head that they bring in the room with them. But what about if you consciously think about your team? How your team is feeling, and ideas that you might have about how you might influence that team to feel a bit better about being a team, about being part of an organization that values its people, that values camaraderie, that makes you feel like you belong, that you're cared about, that you're supported. What are some things team members might do? Here's one. How about if somebody's not feeling well, you offer to take on some of their responsibility, at least for a period of time. Now, that assumes that you can actually, really do that. Of course, some people, pardon me, in today's workplace feel overwhelmed, and that might not work for a lot of people. But, for most of us, an hour or two or even a day or two, helping someone else to carry out their responsibilities when they're not quite right, what a nice signal that sends. And that you don't have to be the team lead for that. You can be a team member, can't you? To do that for somebody else. Or what if your boss comes to you a lot because you're really good and you're really one of those people in the unit that when something gets given to you, you're very dependable. And now what that means often is that the person in charge, when they got something really important that needs to get done, they're coming to you. And while you might feel taxed and overwhelmed at times because they keep coming to you and you're wondering why isn't anybody else getting this work, you sort of know because you're really good at getting stuff done. But what if you said, no, you know what? I think Muhammad could do this, or Mary could do this, or Austin could do this, or Brandon could do this. What about Sylvia or Emily? Isn't there someone else in our unit? Because this is a kind of special thing, I know. And whoever does this and does it well will get some kudos. And I know that you're counting on me, and I appreciate that. But you give me a lot of things, and I love doing them for you. But would it be okay if, I'll help them, so you don't have to worry about it getting done well. But what about letting somebody else do this one? So turning down an opportunity that seems like a golden opportunity. Why would you do that? Well, maybe because you got a lot of golden opportunities and others don't. Also, what about just doing something for the team lead? Sometimes team leaders are doing all they can for the people that work for them, and they're overwhelmed. As a team leader, especially when you first rise to the first level of supervision, emotionally, it's really challenging to let go. Think about this for a moment. The person that gets promoted into a particular role out of their unit is often the best technical person. And I think that will ring true for most of you listening to this, that the best person technically at whatever the job is often gets the promotion to be the lead. Great, right? Maybe that's what should happen, because you want that high standard duplicated across the board. And if that person's performing the way that you want them to, in a way that suggests that this is what I'm hoping the whole unit can do, so I'm going to put you in charge and see if you can raise everybody's level up to the level that you're at. Now, you know what happens to that person when they get in that role? Now, again, I've been doing this for a long time, so this doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to most. They look at the work that the others are doing and saying, how can anybody be handing this in and think it's okay? They just look and they say, the quality is not nearly what it needs to be. But they don't necessarily know how to communicate that in a way that doesn't destroy people's morale. Really feels disrespectful, even the way that they have to talk to people about the lack of quality that they see in the other people's work. Now, you would think that organizations would have ways to help people have those conversations, and they would know that these were going to be tough conversations, and they would be prepared to help the person through an onboarding process of some kind really learn how to have those conversations so they don't make the people feel belittled or demeaned or disrespected. They simply say, hey, I see your work. I see some elements of your work that I like a lot. There's several things that I learned to do myself. I think that would be helpful to you. Can I show you how to make it even better? How about that in saying, instead of, hey, how can you turn this work in like this? Do you really think this is good work? What's wrong with you? Let me show you what good work looks like. Let me show you what I did when I was in this role. Again, it's the same message, but the message is this idea of shared feelings. How do I want the person to feel that I'm going to talk to? How do I say this in a way that is emotionally intelligent, makes them feel the way I want them to feel, so they feel like they're growing, having an opportunity to learn and to be better. And I'm in their corner helping them with that, instead of coming over and feeling like I'm disrespectful and demeaning of their work. So part of this is, as a team member, maybe you help your manager a leader who's just been promoted into that spot, talk to you comfortably. Well, okay, sir, I understand, or ma'am, I get what you're saying to me, and I appreciate that, but is there anything about my work you might like? Do you want me to hold on to, or is there nothing? Well, yes, there's some things I like about your work. Well, let me see, can we build on those things? And I know this sounds strange, but Can you help your leader learn how to talk to you and others in a way that's respectful, that helps them to help you to be better? I know it seems like it's the organization's responsibility to do this, and I don't disagree. But if it's not happening, don't you want it to happen? And I always find if there's something I want to have happen, sure, if there's somebody else that can take care of it and get it done, great. But I don't leave it to chance. If I don't see it happening by somebody else, I'll take it on as a responsibility myself. Whatever role I have doesn't matter. I just view life as something that I can influence. I can have some control over. And in a positive way, I want to make the world a better place. That's why I'm doing this show today. And although I haven't had calls, I know that people listen to this maybe during the time when it's aired on local television. Maybe they listen to it just on YouTube when they tune into my channel. But I know somebody at some point will listen to this and get the idea that they too can have some influence over what happens in their workspace, even when they're not the leader. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Now I want to talk about something else too that's a common problem these days. Artificial intelligence has been a wonderful, wonderful tool in many ways already for me, and I suspect for you as well. Well, I'm using it a lot. And I find what it's helpful with is organizing my thoughts. I have lots of thoughts, lots of ideas, and I'll put them down just in the jumble. And I'll say, help me outline what it is I'm trying to say here. And it'll take my thoughts, my original thoughts, my ideas, and repackage them in a way that, okay, that really makes more sense the way you've helped me to position this so that I can explain it better. So I've used it that way. All original ideas, all original content. But the problem with AI, and that some people are seeing, is that it can be used maliciously. It can be used to attack others. Cyberbullying has been with us a long time now, before artificial intelligence became prominent. But artificial intelligence has created another layer of challenge. You know, people create fake images of other people. Some are comical, some are really hurtful. And the problem with that is that, well, I might be mad at you for some reason, or you might be mad at somebody for some reason, and you feel like you're sort of anonymous and you can create this image and put it out there. I mean, people can probably figure out how to trace it back to you, but most people won't, and they don't know who said it or did it or what it's going to be about. But doing something that attacks others, you have to understand how hurtful that can be. And maybe you're hurt. Somebody did something hurtful to you and you want to get even. The problem that I see is that no one seems to own this. What I mean by that is when I read an article that made me want to talk about this some today in the Boston Globe, and it was about young girls being bullied online. And I thought, this is really sad. There's so many people that struggle with their self-esteem when they're growing up. Almost everybody does at some point. Now, perhaps not every person, but high 90s, 90 percentile. I mean, most of us struggle emotionally with ourselves along the line, not just as young kids, but we get better at dealing with things. Most of us do anyway as we become adults. But we're particularly vulnerable as we go through the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, when we're transitioning from young kids into young men and women, young boys, into young, early adulthood. There's so many transition periods when we're particularly young that we're vulnerable. And when others attack us, it's really hard to recover emotionally. Sometimes our self-esteem feels like it's just been shattered when somebody goes online and says something terrible about us. And, is it the school's problem to fix this? That was a number of people commenting on the article felt the school should do something. Is it the parents' problem? Some people are saying it's a family problem. Parents should do something. Some think it's if you belong to a religious organizations should do something about it. Some feel it's just a general community problem and community organizations should take it on. Neighborhoods, maybe. here's the thing. I think it's everybody's problem, and all of us should address it. I don't think we should wait for somebody else to be responsible when we see cyberbullying taking place. Anything that we can do as individuals, as leaders in our communities, in our organizations, in our schools, in our homes, in our religious organizations, anywhere. Take it on, not to diminish the people who did it, not to talk about how awful people are who do this, but why are you feeling in a way that it's causing you to think and behave as a bully? Let's try and understand where the root cause lies on this. How might we address it in a way that's constructive and not leave it to somebody else or some other organization or blame the families or blame the organizations? Nobody wants to see this, and yet it's happening all over the place. And so I encourage all of you, be more responsible. Take this on. The impact of cyberbullying has caused people to become depressed, even suicidal. Know that the consequences are severe, and that if there's anything anyone can do that can make a difference, do it. Don't leave it to somebody else. Take it on. If you think this is something that's happening in your world with people you know, don't just leave it to somebody else to address. It's a problem for all of us. It's a culture problem. It's a world problem. It isn't just happening in one community. It's happening around the world, I believe, where social media exists. Bullying has been with us for a very long time. We know about bullies. We haven't necessarily figured out what to do about bullies, but we know about them, don't we? Confront the bully. Well, how do you do that on social media? If you know somebody doing this and you're in with a crowd of people and you know somebody in your crowd's doing this and people giggle and laugh about it because they're afraid. And what are we afraid of if we're in that group? That if we say something, we'll become the target. And nobody wants to be the target of bullying. Nobody wants that. So the concept for me is to think about, are there ways in which you find that you can be more responsible and care about people that are impacted by you? Oh, I got a call. Okay. Who am I talking to, please? Hello?
Yeah, hi. I believe
Hi.
I called sometime in the past. This is John. I don't know if you remember. I was the individual who had the Funko Pop collection.
Okay. I think I do remember, John. Yeah. Hi. How you doing?
hmm Good. How are you?
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
I
good,
just
thank
wanted
you.
to call to kind of give you a quick update. Yeah. So everything's been going. I really took your advice to heart, and I really appreciated your support on kind of turning my Funko Pops into a business. So I actually started a small business in a mall next to a GameStop where I'm actually able to sell my Funko Pops now. And I recently proposed to my girlfriend, and so we're actually engaged. And she's wearing a Funko Pop engagement ring that she's finally like willing to kind of accept my hobby now. So.
So it became
I'm
more
very
than a
grateful
hobby.
for
You
this.
really did something with it. That's great, John. I'm so glad you're able
Yeah.
to share that. I do remember talking with you about this. Sure. Yeah, that's great.
hmm
And so
But yeah, no,
congratulations,
I just
congratulations on being on becoming engaged too, and having a business that you've started. That's very exciting. I'm pleased to hear that.
yeah,
Really
we're
think.
looking. Yeah,
Go
the
ahead.
first month it did about $2,000 worth of profits just from reselling some of my old collection. So I'm still sitting on roughly $127,000 worth of merchandise right now. So I'm trying to see if I can branch out more into some of the other sides of things. I believe I remember you saying you're really into comic books, so I'm thinking of branching out into maybe some other types of figurines or comics or toys or something. So it's really, and my girlfriend is also quite, or sorry, a fiance now. Crazy. She's Yeah, she's thinking of joining me with the business too, and my mother is definitely more supportive of the idea now. So we've been able to move everything out of the apartment that I've been living in.
So people are feeling the way you want them to feel instead of how they were feeling before, right, John?
Yeah, I think a big thing was figuring out a way to make it work with myself and my family members that made it more appropriate, because before it was kind of just a money thing, but now it's something where I can collect the ones that I really want to see, and while also selling the ones that might not be as profitable or as desirable.
So that, sometimes, if I have a conversation with someone when they do call in and I'm trying to help them understand how they are feeling, how they want to feel, and if others are involved, how you want them to feel, it sounds like it was a pretty big success for you, John. And I appreciate you sharing that. It helps other people to hear too that, you made some changes, you focused on how you wanted to feel and how you wanted others to feel, and you did it, which is, it's huge that you actually went from the idea to actually achieving the outcome. That's terrific. And again, congratulations on your upcoming wedding. It's great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for calling in. I'm going to have to sign off now because the show's just about to close, but I really appreciate the phone call back, John. Thanks so much.
No, thank you for your advice the first time. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a nice way to end my show. Thanks, John. And to everybody else that's listening out there, I just want to say thank you for listening. I hope you got some value from the show. And again, I'm going to be on in about 2 weeks, and on Tuesday at 5 o'clock to 5:45. And thanks very much, everybody. And this is Chuck Wolf. You've been listening to The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. Bye-bye now.
For over 40 years, SCM
has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education,
and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.